Cap on the day British intercity rail fares. Campaigners are urging. I'm going to read into this story more from The Guardian, you guys. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Reganelite here with an article from The Guardian with the headline of Cap on the Day British Intercity Rail Fares have campaigners have urged. The campaign for better transport says fair fares are needed as the system penalises people who cannot book ahead. Guys, while you're here, make sure you hit the like button and share this across social media so others are notified of this video. This is a number of issues that as somebody who does travel by train, and I've travelled a lot by train. I used to also at some point used to have to take the train to as well to get to work, and vice versa. And I've always found that I've always intended whenever I travel to avoid the peak times, whether it's getting up even more earlier or changing my schedule to work later on past that point, just to avoid paying that extra fare. It was always very frustrating. I hated it. And also you get caught in the rush hour, so you're always jammed in with everybody else. But it's not right that certain travels cost more simply because people can't book. Yes, of course, everybody wants to book in advance and whatnot, but the system is unfair. And especially considering how expensive it is, and we're supposed to be encouraging more people to get on the train instead of being in their car. How are you supposed to encourage people when it's so goddamn expensive? We have one of the highest rail fares in Europe. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. And it's not even that efficient. And I've heard this many, many times from people in my comments, from other whenever there's been other discussions on other YouTubers or me just talked about this. People just are put off getting on the train. People just get put off by being put on the train because sometimes their train is not there, it's cancelled and whatnot, and you're paying a ton of money to get on that train as well. Especially when you're going from one half of the UK to the other, from all the way from Edinburgh to London. The whole point of our rail system is to be beneficial for the British public, for all the public, to be able to get to A to B, to be able to travel around without the need of owning a car, without the need of having to rely on a car to get to A to B. Now, you can't always get everywhere you want to by rail fare, but understandably so. That's the whole point of it, is to make things easier for us. But over time, it's been clear that, even since privatisation, the rail fare has not been good for us. And it's encouraged more people to get in their cars. I still don't recommend people driving in London, but I would not be surprised if people say they prefer driving in London to getting on the tube. I slightly disagree on that, but some people will have their own arguments on that. But more needs to be done on this, and we need, the term fair fares. We haven't had that for a very, very long time. And I speak for so many people when it is so frustrating. We need to bring them down. We need to bring the prices down. We don't want a fare freeze. We want a fare reduction, because there is no need for all the money that is made off the expense of people. All of that, they don't need all that money. People, and especially when we are in a cost of living crisis, people are paying so much out of pocket. Just to be able to travel, never mind just work, just to be able to travel, don't we want to make people's lives better? I'm sure there's lots of people who are listening that would rather travel by train if their train was reliable and cheaper, rather than using a car. Then they could get rid of their car and not have to deal with the maintenance of owning a car, of using it to travel to A to B, of having to pay having to refill it and pay for petrol, MOT, car insurance, all that stuff. They could be rid of all those payments and whatnot if they had a reliable train service. And as well as cheaper fares, which I've mentioned on numerous occasions already. So let's read into this, guys. So, transport campaigners have urged the government to cap walk-up rail fares after research showed almost half of British travellers avoid travelling by train because of the cost. So the Campaign for Better Transport, the CBT, said 44% of surveyed respondents said that train travel was too expensive, exceeding the proportion who said they found driving more convenient. And this is the problem. When people are more convenient on driving than taking by train, there you go. That's the big problem there. The charity said the government should prioritise a price cap on long distance on the day fares, as it found that 71% of people would travel more by train if fares were cut. That is 100% true. So many more people would travel if the fares were cheaper. Although advance tickets can reduce the cost of using many services, the CBT argues that fare systems penalise passengers who are unable to book ahead or require a more flexible ticket. A single standard ticket on an intercity route from London to Edinburgh is likely to pass £200 next month when the fares rise by another 4.6%. £200. 200 quid. What's that in comparison to travel from like Paris to Berlin, for example? In comparison, someone give me the number there. I bet it's not 200 quid. I'll probably be even less than 100. Train operators have argued that cheaper rail fares are available even on the date of travel, but a snapshot of fares on Sunday afternoon showed the cost of a single for any train from Edinburgh to London King's Cross was £199.60, while the next London Euston to Glasgow train costs £150.60. How is that right in terms of fare comparison? There's a £40 difference gap there. A Birmingham New Street to Glasgow Queen Street ticket costs £154, while taking the next direct train from Manchester Piccadilly to London Euston costs £184.70. The cheaper off-peak return fares on many popular routes are no longer available. The report from CBT said the climate emergency underlines that a significant shift from less sustainable models to train travel is essential, and fair fares are fundamental to this. The current complicated and unwieldy system and high pricing for popular services particularly affects people on low incomes who can at least afford high fares when they need to travel at short notice, it says. It suggested one option could be for an unreasonable cap on fares to reduce the difference between the lowest and highest prices, eliminating the cliff edge when advance fares go off sale. Simplifying ticketing is one of the most promised aims of the GBR, the new public sector body being developed by the government to integrate the operation of Britain's track and trains as a nationalised railway. Michael Sommertons-Williams of CBT said, whilst there has been some attempts to simplify the fare system, route and branch reform is desperately needed. The creation of the Great British Railway provides an ideal opportunity for the government to fix fares for good and create a fair pricing system that provides more of an incentive to choose the train. A Department of Transport spokesperson has said, "We are committed to the biggest overhaul of our railway in a generation, from delivering better services to simpler ticketing, while some of our fare types are among the cheapest in Europe, particularly when booked in advance. We know that delivery of fares and pricing can be confusing, which is why we want to simplify fares, so it's easier for passengers to find the right ticket for their journey." I do hope that Great British Railway, railways, as its creation still continues to develop, because it's not something that's going to be done overnight, guys. I do hope that the overhaul does pay off in the end, and that they do eventually bring them back down. But the fact that fares are still going to go up this year, like the interpretation that I'm getting is there's no indication that I've got from the government that they intend to freeze or reduce fares in the future. I've not got that indication at all, and it's just like, well, do they need all this money? Do they really need all this money? We also know that this is not completely. I don't think it's all completely nationalised. I have my suspicions that there is some private investment involved, because this government relies on private business a lot. So to say that this is completely nationalised, it's very hard for me to swallow. I want to believe it, but I really have a hard time believing Labour at the moment, because they have rolled back on some things, which is very worrying indeed. For me, I would at least want to see a fare freeze, but we're not even getting that, and we're just a few months away from the fares going up again. It costs me £30.60 for me to go and travel and visit my parents from where I live. and that's with a two together rail car with my partner. I won't say the distance and where, but it infuriates me that it costs 30 quid just to go up, and it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. So what do you guys think? What do you guys make of rail fares? What do you think should be done? Do you think Great British Railway will make a difference? Let me know your thoughts on this and more down in the comments section below. Now, if you found this video informative or helpful to you in any way, please hit that like button, we greatly appreciate it. And share this across social media so others are notified of this video. If you haven't subscribed already, please consider subscribing because it really does help support the channel. And if you want to go one step further and financially support me and the work that I do here, you can do so by becoming a YouTube member for as little as 99p, or join me on Rumble or Patreon for exclusive content on those platforms. So thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.